Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, the YouTube show / podcast where we talk about web development and everything around it. The whiskey is optional, the fun is not. Get ready for your hosts, Mark Backus and Scott Spence.
Awesome.
Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, just if you like what you see later, you can just please hit subscribe. And yes, today we have a very important and a bit sensitive topic, which is mental well-being as a developer or mental health. And I just want to put a small disclaimer here. None of us is a medical or an expert on this. We are just some people sharing our knowledge about it and our expertise, but none of us is a licensed medic. So just so no one gets the wrong idea. This is a especially important topic, I find, because it touches all areas of developers, from beginners to seniors, and it's something that can really affect how people live and make people miserable if handled wrongly. So I'm really happy to have 4 guests tonight. And of course, my great co-host, Scott. Scott, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Mark. Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. So, like Mark said, Whiskey Wednesday is a fortnightly talk show where we talk a lot of things web dev. And I'm here to introduce our 4 guests. So you've got a full house this week. So we've got Ro, Raf, and Ray, and Philip. Sorry, Philip. Ro and Raf. Hey, Ro and Raf were here for the last show on fitness. And we thought it'd be very good for them to follow on with this mental wellbeing show as well, because we thought they had a great deal to add to this as well. So let's just get the bios out of the way. Ro is a freelancer and a bootcamp grad. Raf is a meat mountain and a full stack web developer.
I like that one.
No muscle shaming. Sorry, mate. And Ray is a front end web developer from South Africa, and we have Philip, who is the host of Speaking Software, another very good podcast. So yeah, cool. As Mark mentioned, this is recorded and distributed as a podcast. So if you are listening on services such as Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, thank you so much. And if you like the show, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And as the show is broadcast live on YouTube, we'll be answering any questions you might have in the chat as well. So please get involved. Okay, so
we already have a fan for Ro. Rodney's legend.
Oh my gosh, stop. I'm shy.
Go. No, go, Ro. Okay.
Thank you. Wow.
Oh, more fans than you and I, Scott.
I'm turning red. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we've got a lot of topics for this one. So the biggest one, and I think the best one, which was what Mark put on there, and what everyone is very familiar with, is imposter syndrome. So, Mark, do you want to tell us what imposter syndrome is? And then we'll ask for people's experiences with it and how they live with it daily.
Yes, of course. Hey, Aaron and Wendy. To the show. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Yes, imposter syndrome is something that's quite happens a lot to developers. It's when someone thinks that they are not good enough for something, so they think they are an imposter, even though they know more than they think they know. So they think they don't know enough, but they actually are knowledgeable. Oh my God, knowledgeable in their field.
Yes.
Third time is the charm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, what you guys have? Which experiences do you guys have in this field? I think all developers have it, from the first beginner to the most pro. Everyone has it.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely,
what are your experiences with this imposter syndrome?
I'll start with the pen.
Okay, so just off air, we were trying to work out how we were going to take who was going to speak next, and we decided to have like a talking stick, which Ro is waving. So brilliant. Why don't you go ahead, Ro?
Yeah, so to get started on imposter syndrome, I'm, as you know, a little bit on the newer side because I just graduated about a month and a half ago. But even in the very beginning, when I started like my intro course to web development, I found that I did not believe that I could do it. And I pulled one of my teachers aside and said, listen, this is not for me. I'm never going to become a developer. This is not going to happen. And she started to laugh and she said, I have imposter syndrome too, you know? And I was like, what? What's this, imposter syndrome? And she's like, it's when you feel like you're never gonna do what you are doing. Like you feel like you're lying to someone over something that you're fully capable of doing. And she, at this point, has been a developer for 8 years. And she was leading our entire class. She works at Shopify. She knows what she's doing. And yet she still has it. And that's when it clicked. And I realized, okay, yes, imposter syndrome is going to follow us wherever we go, but we are still fully capable of doing the things that we need to do in order to become great developers. If somebody else wants the pen, I could pass it up or down.
I might go next.
Okay, here you go.
It's really funny hearing your story and then compared to mine. Like I've been developing for about 10, 11 years now. And there's some days where I close the laptop and I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm stressing myself out. I shouldn't be doing this at all. And like, I've been doing it for so long. I have a degree, very experienced, lots of different companies, but there's still times I'm like, they're gonna find out I'm not capable and kick me out or punish me or do something. And I think it comes an awful lot with stress. And I guess like if you're managing an awful lot of things at once, spinning an awful lot of plates at the same time, trying to hyper focus on one thing and not let everything else kind of fall in at the same time. And it can be kind of hard to manage, and that feeds into like maybe I'm not capable enough in a strange way. But everybody has it in them, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Ray first.
Yeah, so I'm fairly new to development. The first time I ever touched code was back in 2016, but then it only took another 2 years before I seriously got into it. And more on that later, because there's an awesome platform called the Odin Project, which has really guided me with stuff like imposter syndrome. But I didn't really struggle with this until I came onto Twitter, to be honest. I only started using Twitter at the beginning of this year, and people were putting out the most amazing looking things. You know, if we just talk about CSS art, that alone, I mean, I can do the basic CSS stuff, but people were making me feel like I've never done CSS in my life. You know, so I think for me, the imposter syndrome really came to the fore of my mind when I started just seeing the incredible stuff other people were putting out there. So I started looking for ways to battle this insecurity, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's insecurity. And I found Chris Ferdinandi's, I don't know if you guys know him. He's like a developer he's quite active on Twitter, and he tweets a lot about accessibility and Vanilla.js. And he has a podcast called Vanilla.js Podcast. And on there, he's very real, which I absolutely love. He has one episode called "You Don't Have to Know Everything," and for me, that just kind of settled the waves of my feeling of being a fraud. You know, he talks about two key things that are pretty much crucial for helping you not feel like a fraud. And one of them is realizing that Googling efficiently is an epic skill for a developer. Like you can get by a lot of your feelings of being a fraud by Googling really well. Some people call it Google Fu, like Kung Fu, but and the other thing he really pointed out in this podcast was you can't know everything. You just simply can't, but you can know how to solve a problem. That how to solve a problem is what's so important to learn early on to really help you deal with this imposter syndrome when it crops up.
True.
Thank you, Ray. Well, I have been developing since 16 years. I have a master's degree in software engineering. I work for a company that has as clients over 300 banks, and I developed their software from scratch. And I trained their entire team how to manage all that software and how to code in Vue, in Node, in MongoDB, and so on. And I have imposter syndrome every single day. Like
Wow.
the other day I Googled how to shuffle an array, for example. Like you just need to sort it with a random number inside, right? But I had to Google it, and I felt like a fraud, as a lot of people do. Like, oh man, this is, how can I Google this? I'm like I shouldn't be coding software that hundreds and thousands of people use, but it's something that it always creeps up on me, and I just try to ignore it as good as possible, because I know that it's the imposter syndrome. I know a lot of stuff. If not, I wouldn't be there where I'm now, but it always comes back. And I think it's something that when you start becoming a developer, you need to be aware that this is something that it's going to happen to you. You're going to feel that you are not good enough, but you probably are good enough, more than probably are good enough. And it's important to have that in mind. And when it creeps up on you, you are like, oh man, I'm not good enough. But then, hey man, this is imposter syndrome. This is not real. Like, and try to move on. Not focus too much on that thing. I think that's an important lesson to learn from the beginnings of learning how to code.
I think
just being.
No, I was thinking what a good coping mechanism for that would be, because I'd like to know. I know there's always keeping a record of what you've done and looking back on your past achievements and stuff. But when you're in this thing, it's like, is it splice or is it slice? Or you have to Google it, and then, like you say, you do feel like a fraud. So what are your sort of coping mechanisms for that when you're sort of confronted with that sort of thing?
Yeah, I can go. I don't have a pen, but
Go ahead, Rob. It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, well, about imposter syndrome, when I started developing, which was like, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, maybe, I had that as well. But the main thing is, we talked about this like last time as well in this stream. I had exactly the same issue with like the whole fitness thing and stuff. So I was encountering this kind of the same situation, but then in coding. So for me, it was easier to deal with that because it was already the second time. But I can really understand for people who are kind of experiencing this for the first time, it's really hard to deal with that. But I know for myself that I have already been to that place where I keep comparing myself with others, not feeling content with myself, thinking everyone is better than me, I'm a fraud, I should do better. But I learned how to deal with that. Like, it's never going away. We can all agree on that, right? It's never going away, but we just have to learn to accept ourselves for who we are, and that there are always people going to be who know that may be better, or who know this technology better, or whatever. It really comes down to like being kind of happy with yourself and the skills that you possess, because at the end of the day, you are also getting the job done. And Googling doesn't, it's not a problem. If you can Google a certain thing and solve the problem, then it means you're a good developer, because you are able to solve the problem then, right?
Yeah.
So just because you Google something, in my opinion, this is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because you are able to find out what you have to Google, what you need to solve a certain problem. And I think that should really be kind of be considered, that not see this as a bad thing.
So there's a good question in the chat, Mark, from Taylor. Yeah, that's the one. So I think we've all been here with this, and very much just talking about how you feel about a certain situation. So, Ro, have you been in a situation? How do you convey how you feel about a certain thing when working with others?
Let me just quickly interrupt there. For our podcast listeners, they don't see the question. How do you cope with mental illness in a team environment, and how do you communicate your needs? That was a question. Sorry, guys. Ro, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
sorry
okay.
about that.
That's totally okay. So outside of development is the same as inside of development in a team. I haven't worked in a team in environment or in a developer environment yet, but I know that this should apply anywhere, wherever you are. I used to be a manager for a restaurant, and we had so many high intense situations where people are screaming in your face over fries being slightly cold, and then, unreasonable things. So I've dealt with it all, but how you cope with it in a team environment is you be honest. If, let's say, that person's screaming in your face or you're feeling overwhelmed and you need to take a step back, find your manager or find the person who's leading your team and just be like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm currently experiencing a panic attack, and I need to take a couple steps back to breathe. My immediate response as a responsible manager is, yes, go to the back room, breathe, do what you need. I'll take care of this. And when you're ready, come back and we can continue from there. And so the number one key is make sure that your team is aware of your situation and there's no shame in explaining it. At the same time, I know that not everywhere in the world is up to speed with how mental health works. So if that requires you teaching your managers what it means and what you have, then that's okay too. Do not be ashamed. It's perfectly normal to express how you're feeling and get help for it.
I think it can be tough though. And I know what you're saying about, it's called managing upwards. So, just do it that way where you manage upwards to say, look, just communicate the situation. And then hopefully the manager will, understand and see what's going on and then be able to apply that to the rest of the team if that's the situation. But I think this does lean into imposter syndrome as well, where where you're feeling a bit confronted with something, and the usual things you've tried to deal with it don't work, and then that's what I mean. This is when the sort of imposter syndrome starts creeping in. So it's I guess you just need to be really good at communicating that, and then making sure everyone knows the situation. Ray, have you got anything to add on working in the team?
In terms of the question itself, asking about mental illness, I think that's tricky. It really just relies on having a manager that is understanding of these situations. If I walk into a team and I have let's take it to an extreme level, severe schizophrenia. I don't know what the advice would be there, but you would hope that the manager would be understanding enough to at least be personal with you. So I think, like Ro was saying, you need to be honest. Like, if I have severe schizophrenia and I walk into a team, I shouldn't try hide this. Maybe you can predict some kind of action, like Rose said, a client screaming in your face. Maybe before this happens, you can make your manager aware of your conditions, whether it be anxiety or depression or whatever it is, so that they are prepared to deal with a situation when it inevitably arises. Because I think in any stress environment, this stuff is going to happen. So to answer that question, I would say prepare your manager, prepare your team members before something like this, becomes something that's harder to manage.
Yes, I think of all of these topics, mental well-being and mental health, it's always, or it's still in many places, it's a taboo topic. It's not well seen if you talk about it, and people quickly discard you like, oh, he's cuckoo or whatever. I've seen that, and it's horrible. Like, we should try to emphasize this more in general in the culture, in our professions, that it's normal to feel down one day or to even have a mental illness, which is a little bit another topic. But it's okay if you not feel up to it all the time. I think it's normal, but it's not well seen, but it definitely should be. And I don't know how can we sensitize people to take it into consideration.
I think Phil had something to say on it as well before we started talking there, Mike.
Yeah, so something just on the last bit, but I'll try and work into this. Like Ray mentioned the good thing, it's not just talk to your manager, like talk to your team. Definitely spread as much information as you can laterally as well. Because I know, like, the way I work, I don't interface with my manager enough, like I would interface more with my coworkers. So if there was something, like a situation that arose, we would be helping each other directly rather than, hold on, I'll go ask my manager and see what they say, and then I'll come back and react to the situation. Really with that, by informing everybody, you're kind of setting expectations. And once everybody kind of knows, okay, these things are possibles that can happen and how to react to them, they're much easier to deal with. And then Mark was saying about the labels and all the rest, like people have a stigma on mental illness. Just communicating about it more, realizing that people are more than the label that's attached to them, that they're just as functioning and just as valuable and just as worthwhile, and can be just as productive on a team as someone without a mental illness or maybe with issues or temporary issues or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so there's another question in the chat there, Mark, from Gideon Vanderberg. So web development seems like a pretty bleak profession to get into if you have beginners all the way to guys like Mark who feel inadequate daily. How do you manage it? It just doesn't seem sustainable. So let's just tie in, Mark, the understanding the dev learning curve with this question here as well. And just about getting comfortable with failure and learning from failing, and it's perfectly fine to fail, and it's how you learn a lot of the time. So it comes with the territory, and it's something you get comfortable with, I guess. Raf, I think you'd have something to add to this about lifting heavy weights and not being able to lift them one time and then another time being able to smash them. So, and then once you get past that initial barrier, then you're better for it. So it's for me in the early days, like a small psychological win of any kind, just doing a little PR, updating some dependencies on a project, just anything like that to get you past where you were blocked before. It helps tremendously with that sort of stuff. And I mean, just being comfortable with failing is part of the course. I don't mean to sound blasé about it. I mean, but you do gain a lot from learning your mistakes, basically. So learning from your mistakes. It sounds really cliche. Do you have anything to add on top of that, Raf?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the whole trial and error thing. For me, what I have experienced is even if it's like a very, very small issue what you're dealing with, like in coding, for example, I am forcing myself to stay there and solve this issue, even if it takes me 3 or 4 hours. If it's a small thing, I'm not gonna look it up to see if there's someone at the similar. I want to solve it myself without choosing the easy route. And the point is, if that takes you 3 hours, maybe it might not be the most efficient at that time, but that same problem you're never gonna encounter again, because if you encounter it again, you'll know how you did it and how you solved it. I think the whole trial and error path of learning is so much better in the long run than trying to get like shortcuts and stuff. Because for me personally, it might be different for someone else, but for me personally, if I'm really stuck at a problem and I'm really forcing myself to go through with it, and it might take some hours, but I will never forget that again. So
yeah, you don't forget the effort you put in that initial time to get past it, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
Ray, sorry, not Ray. Ro, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, again, because I'm sort of in that beginner phase, I totally know how beginners feel. So for me, what really excited me was when I started a little project, like seeing it pieced together bit by bit and having it come to life was like, oh my God, I just did that. Let's see what else I could do. And then you add a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. It's sort of like, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I really liked gym class when I was in elementary school. And whenever we played a sport or like volleyball, we would all line up to do a volley. And so you see everybody else is volleying and you just can't wait for your turn. Once you get there, you do the volley yourself and you're like, oh, I could do that. And what else can I do? So then you start to learn how to spike and you get in line. You see everybody else is doing it. And so that's kind of how I look at code, is like, you see someone else doing it, it makes you excited and you want to just try it. And then once you do and you get a taste, it keeps you moving forward as a developer.
Yeah, it's about those small wins, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Because
Ray, Phil?
I just
Ray
wanted
to say something.
Yeah, I
Ray
just
can
wanted
go
to add
first.
something. Thanks, man. Thanks, Phil. I just wanted to add to what Ro was saying about wanting to keep going. It really is addictive. That's exactly what just keeps coming back for more. You know, there's always a harder problem to solve. There's always a more elaborate project to build. And I think this sort of infinite, or it feels infinite, possibility that is available to us as developers is what really keeps that hunger there. You can never be sated by this field. At least that's what it feels like now. I don't know, Mark, I'd be super curious to hear how you feel, you know, working 16 years in this industry. I'm sure you haven't reached a point where you're like, everything I can do, I have done. And I think that what Gideon is asking about web development as a profession compared to maybe being a lawyer or being a scientist, or, you know, is there a peak? What do you guys think? Is there sort of this web development peak where, let's say I'm a scientist, for argument's sake, and I can reach a peak. I can become the top geneticist in the world, and I'm an absolute expert in my topic. But I feel like there is still a ceiling. Do you guys think there's a ceiling with web development as a profession?
No.
I think Philip's shaking his head. Go on, Philip. Yeah, go on. Go, mate.
To answer your question directly, it moves way too fast to have a ceiling.
Absolutely, yeah.
By the time you figured it out, there's something new to learn. And you're always, well, it feels like one could always be like 10 steps behind the curve of everything that's coming ahead. Yeah.
So I think that's a good one for burnout as well, where you can feel like you need to keep up with everything that's going on. That is very much not the case, and you can specialize. Mark, are you holding the pen up for talkie time? Do you need to talk?
Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought now.
All right, sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
So yeah, back to what Philip was saying is that it's always changing. There's always something new to learn, but that doesn't mean you have to put that pressure on yourself to learn it. You can really specialize in a lot of things, like what Ray was saying about when he first started looking at Twitter and all the amazing things that people are doing with CSS. That is, you could just go into being someone who just specializes in that field alone and just focus solely on that. and then go in deep on that, and then just be really good in that area. I think what Mark and Ray and I, we just get by with it and we can style things. But then there are people who are specialists in that area. They're probably thinking, oh man, why haven't I learned, X, Y, and Z framework? But they're sort of masters in that area. So I guess they can almost think, well, I'm pretty good at, I can make an oil painting out of CSS. So do I need to do other stuff as well? I don't know. But I think that does lend well to burnout and, trying to make sure you keep up to date with everything. And it's quite a real thing. I mean, I posted recently on Twitter that I've been doing daily commits to GitHub for, I don't know, whatever 3 years now. I've got like it was Leet, it was 1,300. I don't know the Leet speak, the number, whatever Leet speak is, but and someone said to me, man, if you don't suffer from burnout, I've probably suffered from burnout at least several times during that time. But I felt that I needed to keep on doing what I was doing, and I just worked through it a lot of the times. So I'm probably just setting myself up for a massive crash. But for me, I've just, like I was saying, there's the small psychological wins where you just do like a small side project, something unrelated to what you're doing and focusing on, just to build up that confidence in a specific area. So what do you have on burnout, Phil?
I think people need to be clear on what they define as their own success. So in terms of like having to get through tasks or having to learn things or having to get through whatever, a lot of people get fixated on, I have to do things to a specific level or learn things to a specific level, otherwise I'm a failure or it didn't work or it was a mistake. And I think that puts an awful lot of pressure on people, whether that's like work pressure with tasks you have to do or learning pressure with all of the things coming down the line that you feel like you have to keep up with. Being more flexible with what's considered a win definitely helps with that. Like maybe you didn't get to the top of the mountain, but if you got halfway up, well, that's something. Like that's further than you got before, or you can try again later on or pivot onto something else and then come back. It's not just about setting a goal and killing yourself to get there. That you can stop halfway and it's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Ray?
Just to add to what Phil was saying, setting the goals realistically and being honest. I feel like that's part of having a good system to fall back on. I think burnout can be prevented if you do have the right system in place. And by system, I mean a support system, a health system, so physical, mental health. If you're looking after these other aspects and work is just a part of your life, I think you can reach a sustainable place where, I'm not saying burnout doesn't happen, and if it happens, you have bad systems. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is good systems can really alleviate the intensity of the burnout. If I can share something personal, 4 years ago, I was busy studying a postgraduate at university, and I experienced intense burnout. I remember sitting across from my head of department, and he called up the psychologist right there, and that was a turning point for me to realize I need to get systems in place, So I mean that's a whole nother rabbit hole, depression and medication and all of that stuff. But it's okay, but it doesn't have to get to that place if you have good systems. And I just think I didn't have the right systems in place to manage this stuff properly.
Yeah.
I think with everyone being like at work all the time now as well, because everyone's working from home 24/7 near enough. I think this is like prime time for this sort of thing to become apparent to a lot of people. And I think this is another good segue into knowing when to take a break and knowing when to walk away from something. Now for me, I find myself, which I find quite worrying, sometimes I find my emotional state very much tied to how I'm progressing in a project, which isn't great. And I know that. So when I find myself getting agitated on this sort of thing, that's when I decide to say, right, okay, I need to just do something else, go for a walk, go on the bike, just something which isn't sat in front of a screen worrying about why X isn't happening. So, I mean, that is, again, it's like you say, Ray, it's like having a system in place to do that. I think when lockdown started, there was a lot of material on making sure you have a good routine set for when this is going to happen, because we're all going to be sort of boxed up for a long time. So I think it is a good thing to try and implement. It's been quite lax for me personally recently, and I'm not sure how it is for everyone else in that sort of situation. Any words from you, Mark? Raf?
I want to quickly add something. What Ray said, like certain systems, I'm also a strong believer in that. I don't think that your whole life should be revolved around work only and only that. I know a lot of developers, they love to code, like it's their passion. That's why you are in this field. But I feel like there should always be a balance in your life. If you are 100% of your daily routine is only focused on coding, I feel the chances of you burning out is way, way bigger than when you have other things in your life that you can take your mind off work and certain problems that are happening. I think like everyone has certain ways of dealing with this, and you really have to discover for yourself what works for you. So for what might work for someone is go and cook a delicious meal or something, or do some gardening, go for a run, or go cycling for a walk. These kind of things, like doing something different than what you're continuously doing at work, can really reset your mind and freshen up a bit. And I think like if you do this continuously throughout the week and try to do this every day, that you really keeping yourself more sane. Like at least it works for me. Some people are very good with that. They can code 10 hours straight per day and feeling fine. But for me, like 6-7 hours is really my max per day. Then anything after that, I'm just very unproductive, inefficient working. I don't have focus anymore. So I know for myself, then it's time to quit and I'm doing something else. So yeah, I don't know how you all think about that.
Phil made a really good at the end of the last show we did for developer fitness. We reached out for people to come on a show, and Phil DM'd me with let's just read this DM. It's nuts. Apart from burnout and imposter syndrome, the two biggest things I see that are addiction and depression cycle with accomplishments, and then finding self-worth outside of the craft. Too many developers wrap their whole identity in the industry and don't realize they exist as a person outside of it. So I read that and I was like, oh my God, he's just explained my whole being. And, I just said, I just replied, I feel seen. Turn me out. And it is a very, because especially for people who are just starting out, it is something you have to sort of, I had to sort of throw myself into it entirely. And it is really bad. Like I was saying, with my emotional state being tied to it, it's pretty much my identity as well. So I think this is going back to what Raf was saying. I need to find other activities as well. You have anything to add on top of that, Phil?
Yeah, I guess it's not just developing systems, but also realizing bad signs. Like I know in software development, overtime is a big part of it, and there's a very famine and feast kind of nature of it, where sometimes you're going to have easy weeks, and other weeks it's just going to be, hard crunch, and you kind of just have to sit down and do the hours and get things kind of put out. So you might not have control over what's happening, and there is more work coming, and you do get more stress, and as you said, it affects your emotional state and all the rest. Definitely keeping an eye on the signs, and if you have a partner or a friend or a coworker who is aware of them as well and can say, hey, you're really emotionally, you're really ratty, or it doesn't look like you're sleeping, or things like that. It's not just for you to see those signs, because it's very easy to miss those signs when you're so entrenched in your work. And I guess this goes back to what Raf says, is like, have something outside that, or don't be afraid to like get away from it. You don't have to be at your desk for 8 hours a day, just stuck to the screen. You can go for a walk, you can go for a smoke, you can make a coffee, you can do whatever, but just to not be so focused or entrenched on that one thing,
Yes, I think it's important to have, as a developer, like a healthy relationship with the rest of your life. Like, for example, you see these developers, oh yeah, I'm coding 48 hours and I don't know, and I sleep 2 hours. And I was like, you can pull an all-nighter once every, I don't know what, but you cannot keep that up. It's impossible. You will burn out. I can guarantee you will burn out if you like don't sleep enough and just keep at it all the time. You will burn out and you will fail, and you could lose passion for what you're doing. So if you listen to those gurus or however you want to call them, who say, oh yeah, if you don't code 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day, you're not even a real developer. Like, ignore those people. It's unhealthy. Like, it's extremely unhealthy. Like, I code like between 5 and 8 hours a day, and like sometimes I just take the day off or take the afternoon off because I'm like, I feel tired or my head hurts or whatever. I just don't feel like it, and I have the luxury that I work for myself, so the only boss I have to ask for this is myself. So, Martin, you fine with taking the day off? Oh yeah, it's cool. Let's watch some series.
Can you ask for a request off from yourself?
Yeah, best boss ever. No, but seriously, it's like, get enough sleep and don't overdo it. You can pull an all-nighter if it's necessary, 1 night or 2 nights, but yeah, it shouldn't be the rule at all. It should be absolutely the exception. And also, that was one part, and the other part is, so we are now stuck, like, especially now in the Corona time, but also before, as developers, we are stuck inside a building or inside the same room for like 8 hours a day, or a little bit less maybe, but let's say 8 hours a day. You are in the same room, on the same chair, in front of the same desk. Maybe if you're lucky, you have like some people around. I don't have, because I'm working from home all the time. I work for myself. So yeah, I think it's important to connect with others and talk with others. Like, because if not, you just keep being like you're just being alone with your thoughts. You shouldn't be alone with your thoughts so much. It's unhealthy. You have to talk to others. You have to socialize, and even if it's just, for example, going to a coffee shop, working from there, like, you're around people. It's different. It makes you feel different. Even though it doesn't sound like it, it really does feel different. Or if you have stuff in place, like if you work from home a lot, like most of us do now or did, if you have something at home that you really enjoy. For example, I love my coffee routine in the morning. I get up, I ground the beans, and I press it, and I put it in, and then I just watch the coffee drop into the cup. It's like the best minute, almost
therapeutic. Yeah,
it's like, it smells nice, feels nice. You do it, and I think it's important to have those kind of things. It might sound cheesy, or someone would say like, "Oh, this guy is a little bit over the top with his coffee routine or whatever." But I think it's important to have those those things in place. And if you have something like that you enjoy, like, don't let people take it away from you. Just do what you feel like. If you want to make a headstand for 10 minutes a day, or whatever makes you happy, just do it. Like, don't mind what the other people say. Sorry, I rambled on for. Great.
Go,
Phil,
Phil.
you go first. Yeah, you go first, man.
Okay. So you touched on earlier about people that have, like, they get up at 4 a.m. and they code to like 11 o'clock at night and all the rest. Or you have to code like so many hours a day in order to be like a real developer. Like, this kind of touches on comparison, where people see people on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever. And a really good example is Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's fitness routine, he gets up at 3:30 every day, and he goes through this like really crazy fitness routine to have this really great physique. But what they don't mention is he goes to bed at 9 o'clock every night. And that's how he's able to get up at 3:30 every day. And that's why it's sustainable long term.
Yeah.
And I think people need to kind of figure out what works for them. And as you said, if you have your rituals or you have your whatever that kind of keeps you going, don't let other people tear you down. People are very quick to be negative about things they don't like or don't understand, or they think are stupid. But the same people aren't as quick to offer positive advice or positive, replacements or whatever. So definitely take what they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah. There's a saying: if you've got nothing nice to say, then just say nothing at all.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't say that. So Rose holding up her bottle of is that for talking? Is it?
For Baron, he or she was mentioning that, well, asking what we were drinking, and this is Mayacoba. It's from Mexico. It's a vanilla tequila. I promise it's not as intense as you think. It's a very easy to drink.
Tell yourself that.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mark, we're like an hour in. We haven't done a drink check. So sorry.
I'm having a Craigenmore whiskey. Oh, it doesn't focus. Yeah, I picked it up at the supermarket, to be honest.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's I like it. It's nice.
That's often where you find the best ones. I mean, this one here. This is I'm having a beer, which is Hawk's Head. This is from Amazon, and it's like a golden IPA, and golden ale, and it's great. So, Ray, drink check. What you got going on there?
I've got some bourbon and some water for hydration.
Nice. Double fisting. Raph, what you got going on? We're going around in a circle. Raph, what you got?
Just water.
Philip,
I would like to take this time where we talk about drinks and stuff to mention it's not much, but we
Mark, we didn't ask what Phil was drinking. Mark.
Oh, we forgot. I'm sorry, Phil.
I'm on a Dewar's 12-year Scotch, which is really nice.
Oh my!
Yes, you showed
And I have water as well for hydration.
Nice.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, Phil. No, I just wanted to take this occasion. It's not much, but we reached today 200 subscribers, to be exact, 205 subscribers. So I think that's something.
Thank you, everyone.
We can drink to.
I'm going to cheers it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Well done, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone who's subscribed. And if you haven't already, you should definitely hit the subscribe button now. Do it now.
Yeah, thanks,
couple of
Baron,
seconds
for
before
pointing
we keep going. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's just hope you. Let's see. I update. No, nobody clicked. Okay, it's fine. Let's go on. Just ignore me.
It'll work one day.
One day. I will refresh
Ray was
after the end of the show. Maybe someone. Okay. So what's the next?
So Wendy's got a good question. Wendy Beltran here. She's asking how she managed to balance between learn, code, or work, and then the personal life. So we just covered all this. Really, it's about having the routine. But Ro, what have you got to add on top of that?
I wanted to say that it's not easy, but you have to kind of be firm with your schedule. I have recently found that like I wanted to add this on to what Mark was saying about being in a room for 8 hours a day and like pretty much like not moving. I find that even like the smallest chores of like wanting to get up and run to the bathroom real quick, I'm like, I don't have time. But it's like, yes, you do. You have time. You have to do these things. And like, you know, my partner was even saying like, I need help around the house and I know you're busy, but like, I need you to stop Twitter for 10 minutes. I need you to put away everything and just come help. And I was like, but. And then I realized, no, this is not right. I have to help my partner and I have to make sure that I have balance, because it's true. There isn't a balance. So my answer to that is write out a schedule, give it a try. And if that schedule doesn't work, modify it to your day and like how things wrap around it. That's the best thing that you can do. And definitely like schedule in breaks too, because if you schedule yourself like a tight schedule of just constant work, clean, this and that, you're going to realize, wait a minute, when do I take a break? When do I get to step back and relax? So,
Ray, what you got to say, mate?
I think Ro's done a great job there, just giving some practical advice. Maybe it'll help if I share personal experience. When I first started coding, I wasn't realistic about the venture at all. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this 6 months, and I'm going to be ready to start applying for some serious full stack positions. So if I put off all of these other things in my life, it's a willing or a noteworthy sacrifice. Like if I stop playing football, if I stop whatever it is that, you know, that gives me pleasure, if I stop these things, it's for the greater cause. So I think you need to be realistic. Learning to code is not a 6-month side gig for a full-time future. It's a new lifestyle. So you need to be realistic with that from the beginning, you know, set these expectations, and then you can, once you have that in place, you can build these systems like Ro was saying, you know, these practical things. But your expectations need to be on point for those to make sense to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this goes back to when we were talking about the fitness episode as well. When you want to try and keep to a routine. So when we were speaking last week with Raf and Ro and Mark was interested in just adding a bit of bulk, and Raf suggested that he does something, you know, a set amount, a set time throughout the week at set intervals. And when I first started doing like this 5x5 routine, you sort of have to make this commitment to say, right, okay, at this time I'm going to go and do this, and it's something you need to stick to be consistent to do it. But it's conflicting with web development as well, because you're saying, right, okay, I'm going to get myself, you know, to like full stack web developer in 6 months, and it's not unrealistic. People have done it, but
Sure.
what have they done to get there? I don't know. And you know, what do you sacrifice along the way? It's you know, it's no, I couldn't do it when I first started Free Code Camp, and I think this is where it sort of gets wrapped up into your identity as well. And the same thing with being like a fitness person, and it's like, right, you know, a fitness person wouldn't eat a whole pizza to themselves on a Tuesday night. That's, you know, it's that mindset of, well, you know, a good developer is someone who's coding all the time. So it's a hard sort of sorry, I see you shaking your head, Ro. It is a stereotype which has been sort of you know, manifested from what I think Philip was talking about, all these tweets from people, so like the 10x developer sort of stuff and that sort of thing as well. So you do get caught up in this sort of persona of you know, what you need to be successful. So it can be quite hard.
Definitely.
Scott?
I think we lost Scott.
bye,
He had
Scott.
enough.
Was he finished? No. Well, let's greet other people that joined. Eddie.
Hi.
Hi, Eddie.
Hey, Eddie. I'm so sorry, guys. No. Hey,
Oh,
Eddie.
Scott's back.
Yeah, well, I want to quickly add something in the what Ray was talking about. You see people. Oh no, Mark was talking about. Sorry, mistaken. People who are saying, I only slept 4 hours. I only slept 5 hours. If anyone follows me on Twitter, you know I'm very strict with like sleeping and these kind of things. And every time I see people reply, yeah, how do you do that? I only sleep 4 hours, and then I see someone else reply, oh yeah, I only sleep 3 hours. But we really have to move away from this hustle culture. It's not cool to sleep 3 hours or 4 hours. I mean, it's your physical health is like seriously getting damaged if you sleep 3-4 hours per day. You might be fine for 1 week. You might pull that off on coffee, but on the long run, you are 100% gonna burn out. And people, you can argue me on that. No, I don't need that sleep. I don't need that much hours, but that's just basic science. It's how our body works. Like we need sleep to refuel, and there's no other way. There's no trick to not do that. And I feel like people have to take that more serious and really see it as something that is necessary for you to do better at work as well. If you can get in 6 or 7, I would say like 7 or 8 hours is optimal for sleeping. And it is not cool to sleep 5 hours. I feel like we really have to move away from that hustle culture.
Yeah, sleep is really just one of those non-negotiable things. For anyone listening who's interested in learning more about sleep from truly industry experts, check out a book called Why We Sleep by a chap called Matthew Walker. He's been studying sleep for 20 years. And this book will either convince you or give you lots of ammunition for anyone who says they can survive on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. It's full of anecdotal evidence with studies that are, peer reviewed. It's a super good book if you really want to understand what bad sleep is doing to your brain and to your body. And that book has truly changed my perception on sleep. So now it's non-negotiable. It's at least 7 hours, 8 hours. I stick to my sleep schedule. He's got practical tips in there. So yeah, actually, I've got it right here. If anyone wants to check this book out, do it. It'll change your perceptions.
Cool.
We'll put it in the descriptions after the show,
Cool.
so everyone can check it out there.
Yeah, good point, Raf.
Oh, question from Valentina. How many hours do you guys sleep per night? Well, I sleep
7 to
between
8.
8 and 10 hours.
That's
My
good.
favorite is 10 as well, yeah.
Yo, 10, nice.
Wait, 10?
That's
Why? Do I hear judgment?
Oh, no, I'm shocked because I haven't slept double digits in years. The only time that happened was maybe 3 years ago, because we were traveling to Mexico, where I got this tequila, which, by the way, it's finally empty. So this is a very huge moment. But yeah, 10 hours. Wow, that's...
It depends. Like on weekends, you try and take advantage, and then you try and go for 8 most days. It helps your memory, it helps your concentration, as you perform better. It stops you dying of a heart attack. It should be a priority to work for you.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Do any of you guys? Sorry, go Ref.
Okay, yeah. For me, the absolute bare minimum is 7 hours. That's if it's past at 6.5, then I know it's no good. And I will try next day to. I know you can't catch up with sleep. I think I read that somewhere, but at least I try to go to bed earlier. And during the week, my normal schedule is 10 p.m. and then wake up at 5. So every night at least 7 hours. And the thing I see is that people asking me, how can you wake up at 5? But you have to understand 10 is the absolute max that I will ever go to bed. So I prefer to go to bed at 9 to get my 8 hours in. So it is not something weird to wake up early. For some people, this works if you sleep enough every night. So It is just like switching up your routine. So it's the same as sleeping at 12 and waking up at 8. It's the same as if you would go to bed at 9 and wake up at 5. So I try at least 7 hours and prefer 8.
Yeah, me too. Do any of you guys sleep twice per 24-hour cycle?
No.
I know Florin Pop does that. He does polyphasic sleep patterns, I think. I haven't really asked him too much about it, but I know a lot of people do it, and you get quite a lot of benefit from it. Napping's meant to be quite beneficial for you, isn't it? Like a power nap midday.
Yeah.
I can't.
Small siesta.
Yeah.
I think it's because I have anxiety. I can't nap. Even if I'm super tired, like somebody tells me, go for a nap, you'll feel great. Okay. And I'm just laying there the whole time, like thinking about everything I have to do. And then I just can't.
Yeah.
Napping sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Wait, so no one here can nap?
No.
I can. I could. I was like you, Robert. I really couldn't. But when I was in my previous career as an analyst developer, I was at an American bank in a very stressful position. I was on a trading floor, and I would always get these sort of back issues. I had a standing desk, I had a great setup and everything, but it was just the stress was just pulling my shoulders back. And I went to see the physio so many times there, and they said, look, have you tried meditation? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, seriously, just sit yourself down and just listen to yourself breathe. Just be in that moment. And I thought, you sound bonkers. And then I did some of it, and I got an app. It's called Headspace, and the guy it's called Andy. It is really good. I'd recommend it to anyone. And a lot of the sort of basic breathing exercises from that I use all the time just to settle myself. I need to do it a lot more. I need to do it of a morning before I start the day. I do it of a night time when I'm in bed. And like you're saying, bro, where you're just like, I can't sleep. I just sit there, or I'll lay there, and I'll just go through these exercises. And once you're just in that moment, you can just sort of switch off and go to sleep. And then I found out I can nap like that as well. So if I've got like an hour or so, I just go, right, okay, I'm gonna sneak an hour in, and you do feel great afterwards.
Yeah, I have this great breathing exercise. I think I read it about it online. It's called 4-5-7.
Box breathing?
What?
It's kind of similar to box breathing.
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know. But it's to basically say you fall asleep within 1 minute. So it's like 4 seconds to breathe in, 5 seconds holding the breath, and then 7 seconds breathing out. And yeah, I'm out within the minute. but I'm an easy sleeper too. I can do it without breathing. But
I thought you said fox breathing, Ro.
No.
I thought it was fox breathing. It's like foxes, bro.
No.
But yeah, if anyone has trouble sleeping, like that's I would recommend trying that.
Absolutely.
4-5-7 sleep. No, not sleep. Breathing exercise. And you feel very stupid at the beginning doing it, but it
absolutely
works.
Yeah.
I would also want to add to that, if people have like trouble falling asleep, what really helped for me is like being consistent and try to go to bed at the same times every day, like at least around the same time. Because if you one day you stay awake till 2 a.m. and then the next day you wake up at 8 or 7, you're totally crushed. So that night you go to bed early again. And then the next day, maybe you stay awake again till 3. Your biological clock of your body is like completely confused. So I think if you are like sticking to a routine and kind of have the same times every night that you go to bed and wake up, in the long run, you will feel way better, and it's way easier to fall asleep because your body gets used to the same routine continuously. If you do that continuously for so many days straight, then by the time that it's 10 p.m., your body knows, all right, this is the time I have to sleep. And if you lay down then and you took your time to unwind from that day, like 2 hours prior to that, I'm 100% sure you'll fall asleep then. It's just like, throughout life, you're like constantly, there are different factors that are working towards. You can't always stick to that, of course, but I would recommend to try that, like at least get some routine in that and make it a habit for yourself.
Yeah, I want to add to that. With that routine, stick to that routine even on weekends. Because if you're asleep, let's say you're going to bed at 10 p.m., waking up at 5 a.m. on the weekdays, and then come the weekend, you're going out on Friday night, it happens, whatever, you get to bed at 3 a.m. and then you're in bed until 11 a.m. That really messes with your ability, your body's ability to stick to this cycle that it's gotten used to. And then come Monday, it's so much harder to then again revert back to your old schedule. I want to throw a little spanner in the works. I know we love coffee. Like as developers, it's kind of one of these, it's a meme of a developer that we like live on coffee. And I want to say, if you have trouble sleeping, you should really try avoid caffeine in the afternoon. It has
no coffee after 4. Yeah,
it has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours. So if you're drinking it at 5 p.m., it's still in your bloodstream come midnight. So there's a whole bunch of things to improve your sleep that you should look into. Caffeine's one of them.
Yeah.
Ro, go Ro.
Yeah.
So Raf and Ray were talking about habit, and I just remembered I have this book, which coincidentally was beside me. I normally don't have this book out, but it is a good one. So if you haven't, this book's called The Power of Habit. It's by Charles Duhigg. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, but this is a pretty good one for those who would like to read up on how to build some habits and get some tips on it. It's a pretty good one.
I'm a massive fan of habits, and they are very powerful. And I mean, it's a habit for anything. Like you say, for your coffee in the morning, and going to the gym, keeping your routine. So I think this is what we were saying about having that structure to your day, where you need to do that sort of stuff, and you need to get into that sort of thing. It's quite easy to let things slide when you can't be bothered to do it, and then that's when things just start to fold.
I have a question for you guys. How do you develop new habits? Like if you want to suddenly start coding, how would you, like, what
100 days of code? That's what I was saying. I'm a massive fan of the 100 Days of Code project. Started it back in 2016. I wouldn't say I've been coding for an hour every day religiously for the last 4 years, but it has helped me build up the skills I need where I am currently. But it's also the same for any fitness goal you might have as well. So it's about keeping that contract with yourself to say, right, okay, I am now going to do this for X amount of days. I think with the 100 Days of Code thing, it was straightforward enough. It was every day you do something. For fitness related stuff, you have to sort of space it out throughout the week. You can't just, you can't go out and smash a gym session 7 days a week. So you need to sort of maybe Raf.
Yeah,
is that Raf?
No,
I'm sorry. I'll stop with the fitness shaming. Maybe it's just. I think that's what Ray and Phil were saying. It's just about having that structure to follow. After a certain amount of time, it just becomes the new normal, which for me is quite a bad thing with the coding every day. And it goes back to where Phil found me out, and he sort of you're sort of your whole persona gets wrapped around that one thing. So.
Sorry.
Like you could say for it. Well, that's what we could say it for any subject, couldn't you? Really, not just coding or fitness or cooking. It could be of anything. So that's down to me to find a new routine, I guess. But I am firmly behind the power of habit, and it is if you want to change something in your life, get into the habit of doing something which is going to change it. So the thing, what's it? Atomic Habits as well. That's a great book. I can't remember the guy who wrote that, but that is. I'd fully recommend that as well. That's it, James Clear. Yeah.
Yeah, here's some epic advice on starting a habit. So just like some small points from the book. If you want to start a new habit, try keep it really small. Set up your environment to really encourage the habit. So if it's coding, have your computer ready, have your desk space clear, have your stuff charged, clear distractions. You want to have a minimal effort to, keep the habit going, and accountability. And that's where 100 Days of Code comes in, which is really cool.
I think accountability is a big one. It's very easy to negotiate with yourself and say, I'll do that later, or I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll do twice as much tomorrow to make up for the fact I didn't do it today. And that's, once you do it once for a good reason, you can do it 100 times for a bad reason. If you have accountability, whether it's the form of Twitter or a friend or a gym buddy or whatever, that kind of pumps you up to do it, and you do the same for them, you kind of have the success together in a way.
Yeah, so Eddie Fink's saying he still wants to read Atomic Habits. I'd recommend it. It's a really good book. Sorry, Mark. I've got into a really good sixth sense of just guessing when you're about to talk and then cutting over you, haven't I? So sorry, buddy. What's he going to say?
No, I was suggesting that let's see what other topics we have on our roadmap.
Okay.
So we don't run out of time and not talk about something.
I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, already a lot.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really would like to talk about is how do you deal with people that make your job difficult? So managers that are unreasonable, deadlines that are impossible, and so on. Like when you have those things, it's easy for your well-being, your mental well-being to be disrupted. And I'd like to know how you guys deal with those situations where an authority puts too much pressure on you or is unreasonable. How do you deal with it? Because you're not always in the position to negotiate.
Great question.
I might jump in if it's okay.
Yeah, go on.
I think a big part of it is the chain of command. If your manager is failing you because they're giving you too much work or there's too much going on the project, they're not your single source of response or whatever. There are other people you can talk to usually, whether that's their managers or state your separate project managers or even HR if you feel like you're overstressed. It's not just that there's a single point of attack or failure in a team.
Okay, so in that case, try to talk to the supervisor of the manager. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, try the right channels first. If you can't get through, you should try your manager first and see if you can get somewhere. And if they are being unreasonable, follow up from there. But obviously, through the right channels.
Yeah,
yes.
I think
there's often you talk to the manager and they are like, I understand you, but we have this pressure from the clients, and it's not, we have to do it in the time frame that we designed. What would you do?
This goes back to managing upwards again, and you would say, we can't do it in this time, and it's unreasonable to ask that of us to do that sort of thing. And I've had that before where it's like, oh, it's 5:10 on a Thursday, we need this delivered on a Friday, and it's like 6 days work, and it's like, this can't be done. It's not going to happen. So I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, I'll do it, when it's clearly not possible to do it in that time frame without risking some sort of all-nighter sort of thing, when that's not fair. And it's lack of planning on emergency on their part. It's just a lack of planning, basically. So that should be managed upwards, just to say, look, this can't be done in this time. You should have planned it a bit better. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm saying that I can't do it in this sort of time.
I think this goes back to defining what a win is as well. Like, I know an awful lot of projects I've worked on where we would have had at the start of the project, say like 10 requirements, and coming towards the end, we might have had 8 done really well. We'd say like, okay, in the time left, we're not going to get the last 2 done, but we could do number 9, and then 10 is like for version 2 later on. You can't get everything done. You can certainly like renegotiate your deliverables or restart them or something. And usually a reasonable manager would negotiate with you in some way, you know, in regards to the project plan.
Yeah, communication is key at the end of the day.
That's it. Yeah, communication.
Summary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree on that. I haven't worked for an employer yet because I started out as a freelancer. But even when talking with clients or something, in my opinion, it's better to be straightforward and honest with someone that it's not going to happen in this time span than failing to deliver upon something that you promised. That's, in my opinion, way worse for the relationship between you and your client, for example, or you and your manager. So if you are straight up to them and honest from the start, this they might get bothered by it or something. But if you don't deliver it or you break something, that's going to be way worse eventually. So it's better to just suck it up then and be honest about it straight up front than dealing with it at a later stage when it might be worse than it would initially be if you just were honest about it.
Yeah,
it's going to damage your reputation, isn't it?
Yeah,
You don't deliver.
True, definitely true.
I think go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, an understanding client would probably appreciate the honesty from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If it's a client that's, you know, just overly unrealistically demanding, you, as a freelancer, you need to ask yourself if that's the kind of model of clients that you want for the future. You know, if you're being realistic about it.
I guess there's a small difference though between if you're a freelancer dealing with a client directly versus if you're employed, where maybe your manager or project manager would have agreed the deliverables and dates without the tech resource kind of being involved in that. And you're just kind of, the bomb is dropped on your desk like, this is tomorrow or this is next week. You go, this is 6 weeks work. You know, what do I do with this?
So
it's a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah, but it's hard to deal with. But again, it's unfair to, you know, if the person who has scoped that work, you know, if you have a good relationship with that person to begin with, and they understand how long it takes to do something like that, I don't think that's going to happen. But you know, unrealistic timescales, you know, I've had it happen a couple of times, and I've, like what Raf was saying, I've just been up front about it and said, look, this isn't going to happen in that time. And a lot of the time I just say, okay, well, I'll just go back and let the client know. Have you had any experiences like that where that sort of thing, you've had like a really unreasonable client and they've said, look, you know, I want this done tomorrow, or that's it, we're done? I mean, I would say, personally, I would say, okay, well, thank you for working with me, but I don't think we can work together anymore. And you know, I'm sure I'd find another client who would be a lot more reasonable with that sort of stuff. You have any horror stories like that, Phil? Or right?
Don't know what I can or can't say. I'm employed.
I know it's.
I mean, without naming names or getting into anything serious, like definitely working in a company where there are multiple levels of extraction away from the technical team, you do get bombs dropped on a regular basis. And then it does go back to like trying to negotiate deliverables. Obviously, if you have different clients and different projects happening at the same time, trying to spin all of those plates and not let them drop. As I mentioned earlier, just trying to, as you said, communicate and say what we can reasonably do or what we reasonably can't, and kind of define what success means for those projects.
Oh my God, I love this from Taylor.
Sorry.
Go on, Mike. Let's hear it. Sure.
Yeah. Let me try to get the dates straight. Well, I don't remember the years, but from the 1st of January of year X, I think 2018, there was a new law that required that video conversations or conversations about how do you call it, about stock market advisors. They need to be
Recorded,
recorded
yeah.
for like up to 5 years, I think, or up to 7 years.
Wow.
And the company I worked for, they had this provider that that said, "Oh yeah, we are going to provide this for you. You just need to plug your software in here, and it's all going to work." And then, like 2 months before the deadline, they pulled out. So we had to make all of that in 2 months with an extreme pressure, because if we couldn't deliver, we would lose a lot of our clients because we were not compliant anymore.
Yeah.
And those are things that you can't renegotiate. Which
Yeah,
they
that's
are
tough.
not the rule. They are like the exception. Like, and you couldn't see it coming. Like the provider, oh yeah, I can't do it. I have too much to do. See you later. Okay, thank you. and it's a complicated, well, not that complicated, but it needs to be well done, because it's a legal requirement. If something breaks in the chain of your software, you're not compliant anymore, and there are huge fines provided by the government that or by the European Union that would make the company go under if something goes wrong. So huge pressure. We managed to do it with cutting corners here and there. Something we couldn't do, but we scaled down on some features, that something that were in fact nice to have or should have, but not must have. So and we delivered it like half a month after, and it was okay. But that's like a horror story. And in those 2 months, we're talking about mental well-being. That mental well-being was, oh yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm finished with the story anyways.
No, we were kidding with each other. You could.
We're having a pen off. So for everyone that's listening, we're holding a pen when someone wants to talk. I think Phil wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Mark, we're sorry, mate, if we distracted you, but it sounds like that is really a lot of stress for a whole company. So I think this is very different to like a freelancer situation where that sort of thing might arise. So but this, again, I don't think that sort of thing should be on the developer. It should be, I know you're saying you've got the carpet or the rug pulled out from under your feet. So, I mean, that's where you've got to pull the all-nighters, I guess. But that's tough. And like you were saying, that is the exception. But yeah, sorry for we're just having a little play while you were talking there, mate. Phil, I think you want to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, it actually reminded me a lot of GDPR regulations, which came in within the last year or two, quite recently. And a lot of companies had to make very big changes for how they handle their communications, their marketing, and all the rest. But I think the law in a lot of places wasn't very clear. And especially for American companies who are dealing with European clients and how that worked and all the rest. And also the companies scrambled to make changes that they weren't entirely sure were the right ones or that would be legal or all the rest. I think it's all kind of past now, but I remember at the time there was an awful lot of fear mongering because the fines were incredibly huge.
Yeah,
for minor
slip-ups.
It's
still a big deal. It's still incredibly annoying as well. Right, what did you have to say?
Well, you were mentioning renegotiating, and I feel like that gives a huge anxiety to a lot of newbies like myself. I always find myself thinking like, oh, when I get in a situation like that, what am I supposed to do? And sometimes I feel like it makes people in my position hesitate to even move forward more freely with their freelance. And I guess maybe this is also kind of a question. What would you say to people in my shoes who are feeling a little anxious about having to face renegotiating with the client or saying no?
Yeah, so this is Taylor Oswalt put a comment in the chat as well. No holds a lot of power. So I guess we could reference back to the freelance episode as well, couldn't we, Mark, with Tom. Now, Tom is an amazingly successful guy. I can't remember his second name. Hurst, I think his second name is Tom Hurst.
Hurst, yeah.
And it's a very, very successful freelancer. And if you don't follow him, he's got loads of great stuff on just being a freelancer in general. But when it comes to renegotiating, I know what you mean, where I guess it's the imposter syndrome thing as well. Yeah. It's like, well, what do I say? And I think it comes back to what Phil and Raph were saying. It's just about being upfront. It's like, right, I've done X, Y, and Z in the past. I've not done this, but give me the time to do it. Then absolutely, it's going to happen. But how much time is that going to take? I don't know, because I've not done that before. So it's just about being upfront about your capabilities and what it is you can achieve for them. Yeah, I mean, and they'll respect that. They will say, okay, fine. Thank you for letting me know, and they'd probably ask you to do it, or give you a bit more of leeway on that as well, because they understand the situation with you. Yeah. So Alex Thomas said, "Be confident, Ro. You hold the power as a freelancer. You can take on, reject any work you please." So again, it's down to you.
Yeah, definitely. Don't sell yourself short. But I would want to add, like, if you start as a freelancer, I think it is inevitable that at the very start you are gonna take some compromises, because you don't have built up a portfolio yet, you don't have any connections, you don't have clients. So I would say, like, never sell your shirt short, of course, because you know your own qualities and you know what you can do, and you're not gonna work for a crazy low salary or something, or make free projects or something. Always know what is your worth. But I would say, like, if you have to compromise something to get some projects into your portfolio, or get some good connections with like clients that can refer you again, I would say do that then, because at the start you really need that ground to stand on, and those relationships, the clients, the portfolio. So I would say that, but there is always a point where it is too much, and it's kind of tricky to see, like, where is the line then, when it's too much or not. But I think that's kind of what you have to discover for yourself as well.
That's awesome. Thank you both.
I think in a way as well, it puts an awful lot of pressure if you think it as like a single pivotal moment of negotiation. Like, estimates and scope and priorities change all the time. So it doesn't have to be like one big moment pressure thing. You can do lots of little negotiating along the way, and that's totally valid and works well.
So I guess that'd be, I mean, do you have anything else to add on that, Phil, with regards to you're just starting out this relationship, and you want to be upfront about what you're capable of doing, but I mean, I think that gets the relationship off on like a good grounding, so you both know where each other are, but obviously you'd get to learn a lot more about your client as well, and whether you'd want to carry on doing work with them after you've finished what you're agreeing to do to begin with, I guess. But I think this is sort of vying off from like mental well-being over to freelancing stuff, but it is good that I know how you would feel in that situation, and it can feel it would feel sort of overpowering, and you would feel like beholden to them to just be like, right, okay, I'll do it, whatever. But if they take advantage of that, then I don't think that's the sort of right person to be working for. So it's a two-way street with most things like that. So you get to learn a lot about them in the process, I guess.
I have an excellent book you can learn something about with those kind of things, which is not exactly how to freelance or how to do projects, but hold on one second. this one. Lean Startup by Eric Rice. This is basically how you can build a business, a startup, from the ground up by doing little steps. And it's not just about how to create like a startup where you get investors and so on. You can create a startup within a company, for example, or just one project in a company, or just one feature in a company, and do this really MVP. Like you make the smallest version of something, and then you try. Does it work for the clients? No, it doesn't. What do we need to change? Does it work? Yes, it works. We need to continue that road. This is something that it's incredibly valuable, not just for making business or creating projects, but for all sorts of points in your life. And I now found this so valuable, this book, because it teaches. It's supposed to be a business book, but it's really a life book, if you ask me. And that's something you can apply if you're not sure with clients. You say, let's just try the first version. Like if it should be well programmed and well done, but it can be skipped off a couple of features and just do the minimum it can do. And then you see you can renegotiate with your client to say, is this something you're looking for? Do you like the quality of the software, of the code, of the performance, whatever? And do you want to move forward? And we can add another step to it, and so on. So this could be something that's helpful for you.
Great, yeah. And it would also be a huge relief for mine or any newbie's anxiety towards freelance. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess this brings it back to the you're not alone bit as well, where Mark was saying that get advice from other people, talk to other people about it, and try not to sit there and stew on that one decision or that one interaction, and find out from other people. It's usually what I do: Google stuff, YouTube stuff, Twitter stuff. Everyone's got an opinion on something, so you'll always find a lot of information. You know, some of it might be conflicting, but it's just what you want to take from it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to get some good advice on the internet, just post something wrong and you get
I suppose that falls into like ask the appropriate people for advice. Like Absolutely. If you're struggling with issues with mental illness or stress or whatever, don't take to Twitter. See like a registered psychologist or something. That'd be an appropriate person to talk to.
Or some random people on YouTube.
Yeah, so people on YouTube.
Podcasts.
I actually have a call with the therapist after this meeting, and no shame, I want to talk to someone, and I think that I need a professional to help me kind of like navigate everything that's happening in life, especially with like, I know Scott mentioned in the last podcast to not say the C word, but especially with Corona, it's been a little...
It's hard not to. I thought you were going to say the Fallout one now. I was like, what's she going to say? I was like, whoa.
No. But yeah, like it's good to have a professional help kind of navigate this really weird period of time. So
you should totally do that.
Yeah.
So I think let's go back to Mark's. No, sorry, Ray. I think we'll just go back to Mark's disclaimer at the start as well. This isn't intended as professional advice. Mm-hmm. We're just 6 random people on the internet talking about these sort of issues and our coping mechanisms for them. So if you have those sort of issues and you're thinking you need to speak to someone, I think what Mark was saying, or someone was saying, just don't, get your own idea from the internet, but talk to a professional. So sorry, Ray, what was you about to say, mate?
Just saying to Ro that it's such a good idea to go and speak to someone. Like people have physical, what do they call them? Personal trainers. We have personal trainers. You don't just stop using a personal trainer when you're suddenly strong. I know a lot of strong dudes that have personal trainers, but it's a way to keep you at the top of your game. And the same logic can be applied to seeing a medical professional. You shouldn't just think, okay, I have depression now, I need to see someone. Rather, you could think, I want to understand my mind better, or I want to understand how my personality works better. Who can help me with that? A medical professional, a psychologist can help you. So one day when I'm a grown-up and I live in one country for an extended period of time, I will see a psychologist every week, because it just makes sense to have an expert guiding you. Like, so as soon as that stigma is gone and things like this help with the stigma, I think we'll start seeing more and more people do it, because it should totally be normal. There's an expert, use it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I also noticed, like, first of all, mental health seems to be very taboo in other parts of the world. I find in Toronto, it's more widely spoken about. Like, we're all like, oh, cool, you have anxiety. I totally know what you're going through, and I understand what you are feeling in this moment. Whereas I speak about it online and people are like, what is mental health? And I'm like, what do you mean what is mental health? And so the other thing to add is that mental health amongst people who identify as men is very much kicked under the rug, like more so than anything. I find that people, like men, kind of hold it in. They're like, I can't talk about my mental health, even though there's people who are like, yes, you should talk. I don't know. I find that even like it's hard for like my brother or my partner to talk about their mental health openly. Like, I don't think that they think that they have anything. And it's like, no, like a lot of people do suffer in silence, and it's such a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to go far to find people. I think everywhere you find people that find it strange. Maybe in Canada, not as much, but in Western Europe, or at least where I live in Luxembourg, like I don't think people would accept it well. Like, they would think like, okay, drama queen alert.
Yeah, that's a bit like
You get easily rejected by people, and we should do something to kind of make it more socially acceptable.
yeah.
It starts with education, though. Like,
yeah.
if you tell someone, hey, like, I've actually sat down with people and been like, okay, listen, if you notice I'm acting a little strange in this moment, it's because I'm having something that's called a panic attack. And usually the person's like, what is that? I explain, and then they start to recognize these habits and patterns. But as much as I almost like put a responsibility on the people around me, I too have to hold accountability and responsibility as someone with mental health. So that's why I mentioned in the last podcast, but I started taking medication to help with my general mood and behavior every single day. And my life would be super different without it. And I think that everyone should consider, looking at meds and not thinking that it's something that should be frowned upon. And just, it'll help with overall acceptance of mental health the more you teach and the more you learn.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really dependent on like the location. I can agree with like Mark there, like my country, which is the Netherlands, and it's also not really something to talk about or be open about. Most of the times, if you would tell someone I'm seeing a psychologist, they assume you are crazy or whatever. It's not. They don't see it as something that. It's just like a bit conservative, I think, or something. Not like how they think about it in like Canada and parts of USA as well. So it really, for those people, it's harder because you are inside that community with everyone who is so closed about it. So if you are the only one who is talking openly, that can be very hard for someone. But I think that's it is good to connect with more people around the world who have like more open views about this, and like things like these streams where we're talking about these things, and to really show everyone that it's something you can be open about and something that should be discussed, and not something you should go through by yourself only, because in the end, if you're together with multiple people, that's always going to be better, like communicate. It's not just you alone on this world and dealing with everything yourself.
Yeah, well, you saying that is something that I'm kind of working on. Myself and a few developers are creating a group where developers from around the world who suffer from mental health and feel like they can't turn to somebody without being judged can join a Discord channel or a Slack channel. Haven't decided yet. But we basically want to create something where devs can help other devs and just speak freely and give each other support and advice. Obviously, again, it's not a trained medical professional at all because it's just regular people. But like you said, Raf, and even in the comments, Eddie's saying that it's just not something that people talk about in Europe, it seems. But if you are feeling, hey, I need someone to talk to, you can pop into the channel and speak to someone and get some advice, or just have someone listen to you and truly listen to you for who you are.
He really, like, for people, it's really, they are seeking for the kind of like the no judgment talks. Like that's the main problem. If you would be open about something like this in certain parts of the world, you get immediately pushed into that corner and you get judged the hell out of you. When all you need is like just a listening ear and just listening to you and someone you can explain the situation to. And like you said, that doesn't even have to be a medical advice, but if you can just vent and talk about it, that's without being judged constantly. That's I think that's a great idea then.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good share. So I would recommend Discord over Slack.
So I've heard.
Right, so that was a bit deep, and I do think you're right, Raf. Especially in the UK as well. Is that classed as toxic masculinity? I don't know, or is it? I think it's just something which is. I think Eddie was saying. No, sorry, Alex Thomas was saying at work he's got trained staff. Where I work as well, we have people who are there to talk to you about that. And I think the start of each year, I think it's around January, maybe February time, we have mental health awareness fortnight as well. And it's something which I've never experienced before. I was at this place. And it's great that they're sort of bringing it to the fore for everyone else to sort of talk about these sort of things, which I thought was great. And it did feel a bit odd, like what Raf and Mark were saying. It's just something which isn't really talked about a great deal. So this is great.
Yeah, it makes me sad to hear that this is how the rest of the world seems to look at mental health, because I thought that things were going in the right way, but hearing this Mark Raf, like, nope.
That's like just maybe like your environment because you're constantly around it. But like if you are in, I think like most part of the world, it's still this stigma and like kind of taboo to talk about this, and that's a shame, of course. So at least it is good that with these kind of talks that we're moving towards it and like trying to improve upon it. But I think we have a long way to go there. I'm not trying to be negative here, but
it's okay.
just being real.
It's important for people to remember that even in places like Luxembourg and the Netherlands, where people aren't talking about mental health issues, there are still a large number of people struggling with mental issues. And that's why opening up conversations are so important. It might just lead to a snowball effect. I mean, maybe it's that one conversation that you have with a friend at a party, and then he chats to his family about this stuff, and then they chat to their, these little grains of influence have a long way. They go a long way. And I think that we need to help these people who are, suffering in silence or in discomfort, as it were, in these Western European countries and whatever. They are sufferers. They need to feel comfortable. Yeah.
So Ray, what is it like in South Africa? This sort of thing as well. is it?
Again, it really
for
varies. Yeah, it really varies, man. So we have a very culturally diverse population. We have 11 official languages. You know, we have.
Wow.
So I can't speak for even a fraction of them. I can only speak for my family and my friends. And I come from a psychology background. I studied it at university. So it's always been fine, you know, with my sphere of influence. And whenever I've encountered someone who has that toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call it, I do my best, and I know those in my sphere of influence do their best to, try to not teach them, but just try to guide them and maybe open up their eyes a little. And often people realize that there are problems at home, or there are problems in themselves that maybe they haven't even given a name to. So, I haven't really struggled with that, but I have seen trouble from the outside in other maybe cultures and in my own culture. But again, I can't speak for the whole country because it's a huge variety of, let's say, the Western Europe way and the Canadian way and everything in between.
Just to clear things up, though, I can't speak for all of Canada either. I just know that, Toronto's pretty good with it, but even then, there's still flaws, and it could be better. But yeah.
So I just want to address this in the chat as well. The cam keeps going off, and I cut off midway through talking about a
Rip
subject.
Scott.
Sorry guys. I'm making dinner. So
are you going to
I'm fitting this in around making dinner for my family. So I'm the chef here. So
wow.
I was also grabbing another beer. So. Sorry, better address that. So when I was speaking earlier, I was just trying to get my point across, and then I stopped, and then everyone was like, "Okay." I thought someone was going to follow me. I'm so sorry.
I think Phil wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I remember in Ireland, Ireland is like really tough about mental illness and people having problems or whatever, whether they're permanent or temporary or whatever. But I remember there was a lot of ads on the TV a while back that were like, don't be afraid to ask people if they're okay, as a kind of a mental health awareness thing. Like if you have friends you're worried about or co-workers or anything, don't be afraid to reach out and just talk or ask if they're okay. I think a lot of people don't ask because they're afraid they will be burdened with those issues or they'll be overshared or something like that. And it's normally not the case. But if someone has problems, whether they're permanent or temporary, knowing that there's someone that they can just say hi to, they don't even have to share their whole issues with, like just a positive friend or whatever, really goes a long way. So don't be afraid to ask if people are okay.
And you can feel 100 and a lot better just from talking to someone about something else. But I mean, this probably goes back to the covering it up and pretending it's not happening sort of thing. I think what Phil was saying, that they did something in the UK for that called UK, and it was very much just saying, when someone says to you, "Are you okay?" I think the learned response is just go, "Yeah, I'm fine," and then I think the advert was to just say, "Are you really okay?" Just to get a bit more out of your friend about it. And again, it is just this learned thing where it's just, for men, they do just like suffer in silence about it if they've got any issues about that sort of thing. So who was saying it was a taboo subject? I think someone was saying it was a very taboo subject. And that's why Mark wanted us to talk about it. And again, sort of disclaiming it, we're not sort of medical professionals, but we do think that it would be good to just talk about certain aspects of it as well. It's good to talk.
Oh, Fernando has Okeng Fernando has a comment. Fernando from Uganda. HR policy stipulates that we must see the psychologist at least twice a month, even if we had nothing to say, which helped us to open up.
That
Which
is
now with
awesome.
remote work, things are bad. Oh, that's a great company policy.
Yeah, awesome.
More companies should follow something
Absolutely.
like this.
Yeah.
Could you not do your meetings with the psychologist through Zoom or an online video? I mean, I know that you can't respond, but maybe you could speak to your company and say, hey, I think we should continue this because this is helpful for us.
Yeah, should definitely be a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know there are apps on your phone where you can book your psychologist, and so it should also work for companies that have psychologists on site.
I think there are just apps where you can just write random letters to people, and a lot of the time when you're you have an issue with something and you don't feel that you can talk to anyone about it, these sort of things where you can, if you just write it all down and get it out what you want to say, that can often be like a very therapeutic thing as well to help you understand how you're feeling about something. So you don't have to necessarily give it to anyone. Just writing it out and reading it back could help you a lot as well, or make you feel a lot more bitter about it. But I have found just like with sometimes when you're feeling a bit salty and you just like you want to just get this like 5-line tweet out to say, Bitbucket's crap, or some sort of technology is terrible. Which, by the way, I deleted that tweet because I got a lot of backlash from that.
The mob came for you.
There is this thing though where I know a lot of people do it on Twitter where they'd write out about 7 different tweets, read it back and go, right, I'm not going to share that. But actually just the process of writing it out and reading it back just helps you understand how you feel about that certain situation. So don't always tweet it. But you can write it out, absolutely. It will help. Or it can help.
Yeah, it's better like if you're in an agitated state or like emotional, if you want to share something on social media, like write it out maybe and then see how you feel about it 1 hour after that, if you really want to share this into the world, because sometimes you are really in like, I don't know, like maybe you're angry or really irritated or agitated, and like on social media, everything can be interpreted in so many ways. Like you might say something different, and there's so many people who you might offend. So I would say, like, especially with something like Twitter, just kind of watch if you're really angry about something or whatever. Just take a step back and see if 1 hour you feel the same about it, and if you really want to share that with like the whole world. And I'm not saying this to like stop people from sharing, because that's not what I mean. I just meant like if you're really in a highly emotional state or something, kind of try to take a step back with that, like at least the online sharing. That's what I would think. But I'm not a medical advisor, of course. Disclaimer here.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I think it helps you to understand where you are and how you're feeling. And like you're saying, Raf, if you've got to write an email to someone, you should always read it a couple of times before you hit that send button, or maybe it's not send it at all. I think it is like, it helps you sort of reflect on where you are at that point, and it does help you get that, what you're feeling out. Because a lot of the times, like we're saying, if you just need to talk to someone, but you can't, if you just want to put that somewhere where you can sort of reflect on what you've done and how you felt in that situation, then that can help as well. I guess it has for me.
Just a note to any of your...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Any writing people want to do to maybe like get through an issue, whatever, it doesn't have to be on technology. Like journaling helps so much. And even the process of putting like pen to paper can be an awful lot more therapeutic. rather than like writing something in Twitter or writing something in an email, and like it only takes a split second to hit that send button and then it's gone. Whereas if you're writing it down, no matter how harmful it is or how bad, it stays in your journal or on your page. It doesn't have to go further, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so Ro's holding up a book. What's the book, Ro?
The 5-Minute Journal.
Excellent.
Do you know about this one?
No, I don't. I do my second brain, where basically any sort of useful links or information I find throughout the day just gets dumped into that, and it's a big Git repository of just links and stuff which I find useful, which I can refer to at a moment's notice. But journaling is very different to that, but it is like it does come from the same sort of area. So if you'd like to expand on that, that'd be great. I didn't mean to sort of cut you off there.
No, it's okay. I just kind of threw the book up, so it's okay. So basically how it works is you have a sheet like this, and it starts off with like a cool little quote at the top, and then you just write the date so you can keep track of what you're doing. Essentially, you write 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 things that will make today great, and then 3 daily affirmations. And then at night before you go to bed, and by the way, this is the first thing you do in the morning. Like, don't check your phone yet. Don't do anything. Write in here first and read the little quote. So then at night when you're about to go to bed, you will write 3 amazing things that happened today, and then write, how could I have made today even better? My issue is that I kind of forgot to write into this sometimes. So the timeline you'll see, it's like between the last like 4 years that I've been writing into this book, which is very small. So if you really are into journaling and can be consistent with it, then this is a great book to check out, because it's helped me a lot in those times when I needed it.
Cool. Okay, so I'm a bit aware of the time, Mark. We're coming up to the it says live for 56 minutes, but we've been going since
an hour.
An hour 56.
Yeah.
Seriously? I thought.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
No. We've been going. We've been going for.
56.
Am I losing my mind?
Yeah, 1 hour and 56 minutes.
Yeah.
We've been going for an hour. It just says 56 minutes, but we've been going for an hour and 56 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought I was going bonkers. Sorry. No one on YouTube or anyone else. It's basically the StreamYard. It says 57 minutes, so I'm not sure where that time has come from. But I'm pretty sure we're up to 2 hours. We spoke a solid 2 hours. That is amazing. What should we do? Should we wrap it up, Mark? I think we've covered a lot of stuff in here.
Basically all of it. There's some smaller topics that we probably didn't touch, but I think we got almost everything we wanted to talk about. We talked about, which is great. So I think all in all, we can sum it up as, mental well-being as a developer. Don't push it too hard. If you're having troubles with mental well-being, talk to someone. Try to dial it down a little bit. Get enough sleep, very important. And anything else? Any big points I missed for the summary? Scott, Ro, Ray?
Journaling, talking to people, be upfront. Ray?
Yeah, I just want to add, maybe people can look into meditation, mindfulness. I think that's an absolutely crucial system you can put into play.
Yep.
Okay.
And Phil?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how big or small your problem is. Even if it's just a minor niggle you have, don't be afraid to talk to people about it. You don't want it to develop into a big niggle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Prevent instead of cure, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so then thank you everyone, Ro, Phil, Ray, Raf, for joining, and also everyone for watching live, for being in the comments. Today was
thank you so much. Yeah,
very active in the comments, and also thank you everyone for listening when they listen to the podcast, not live but later on. So great. So you will listen to our stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
I just wanted to make the last check with the subscribers. Yeah, 3 subscribers. Why we checked last time?
Yeah, it worked.
It works.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us, man.
So
Yes.
okay, thanks everyone, and see you next time on Whiskey Wednesday.
Bye.